Hi, Gael.
What's that?
Hi, Gael. Oh my gosh, my husband is going to watch this video and he's going to start panicking at all the plants that I want to buy again. Hi everyone, it's Melissa, your plantita abogada here at Tasteful Nodes, coming to you today with my 5th and final Halloween episode. So yes, this is Halloween episode 5 out of 5, and we've reached the conclusion of our Halloween celebration for this year. So today's episode is going to be dealing with the pricey plants that I've loved and lost before. Got me singing like Julio Iglesias, to all the plants I've loved before. More that than Ariana Grande's Thank You Next, you know, although that did cross my mind with a couple of plants on this list. But aside from getting all mopey and depressed, I figured I'd go ahead and turn this episode into something positive. So this video coincides with the Filipino celebration of Undas. And Undas is technically All Saints Day. It's a Filipino word that was created, which means Dia de los Todos Santos. Since the people who coined the phrase Undas could not speak Spanish language, they just decided to shorten the name of the holiday to Undas. And that's how this holiday came to be. We've celebrated it ever since I guess, since the Spanish came over and colonized the Philippines. So the reason that I'm sharing this information with you is to give you an idea of what Undas is. And Undas isn't just a solemn celebration, it's actually a celebration where people, not just family, but friends of departed loved ones, actually meet up and reminisce and hang out as they visit with their dead. You'll have all of these people in cemeteries or in memorial parks. Now, with that explanation of what Undas is, that is pretty much exactly what I am planning to do with this episode as well. I have 6 pots on this table. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2, 4, 6, 7. I lied. I had 7 pots on this table. So each of these pots here on this table represent a plant that hurt my feelings and my budget. With their, I guess, untimely demises, I did learn something in return. They do say that experience is the best teacher, and I've come to share my experiences with you. Man, the plantdemic, as I like to call it, and I refer to it as a plantdemic because it's not just a play on the word pandemic, but it's a play on exactly what happened here in the Philippines when everything shut down. So when everything shut down, everybody all of a sudden had to find a way to keep themselves sane. By doing so, some people turned to pets, other people turned to plants. And when I say other people, I mean a whole bunch of people, because pricing skyrocketed. In fact, for certain plants, they were more expensive here than they were in the United States. And I know this just because I keep track of pricing there. My family's from the US, Guam specifically, but also from California. It was just obscene how bad the prices got here. I mean, they got really out of control. And a few of the plants that are on this list were actually part of that plantdemic pricing. Ouchie, big time, yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started with our first plant. So the first plant on my list is the Syngonanthus, Chrysanthus, MIKADO Gold. So the MIKADO Gold is actually characterized by these wispy leaves, wispy stalks, I guess, that hold these golden airbrushed buds on top. They're not airbrushed, they just look like it. If you've seen, Guardians of the Galaxy, those gold-looking people, I can't remember their names off the top of my head, forgive me. But these are the people of Adam Warlock. Yeah, those people. So this bud just looks like that. It's golden and it's beautifully airbrushed. So when these little buds open, they open into tiny white little chrysanthemum looking flowers. And they're just wonderfully gorgeous. In fact, the name is actually shared with the Greek word chrysanthos. So golden flower. Again, it is just perfectly named. This plant is a native of Brazil, and it normally enjoys swampy conditions, and it's thirstier than most plants. It also enjoys warmer temperatures and higher humidity, which would have made it perfect for the Philippine climate. A fun fact about the Syngonanthus chrysanthus is that while this is its scientific name, It is sold commercially under the names MIKADO or MIKADO Gold. The thing is, there are only 2 companies in the world that are allowed to commercially sell them under these names. So the Syngonanthus Chrysanthus, the way that this thing passed away, is it got tucked away. It got tucked away under some plants, and I forgot about it, and I didn't water it. I didn't keep up with those swampy conditions that it needs, that it thrives in. And by the time I found it, the leaves were all crunchy. If you know chicharron, then definitely chicharronish, like crunchy, brown. I was hoping that by trying to save it, by putting more water in, you know, saving it that way would spur maybe some growth underneath, but that didn't happen either. So what happened is the Syngonanthus Chrysanthus passed away due to neglect on my part. I guess what would be better is to have a system where you could see all of your smaller plants in one area, your bigger plants in another area. I do put plants together because I try to maximize humidity by having everybody together. Plus the shade also helps. But the problem with that is that you also tend to forget plants. So my recommendation, and something that I'm actually working on with my greenhouses and the pool area, stuff that I'm looking at over here, is to actually arrange them in such a way that there won't be anybody who would be tucked away under someone else. The next plant on my list is a plant that I constantly battle with, and I don't know why I do this to myself. Actually, I do know why, because it's beautiful and I can't resist pretty things. But knowing my track record, I should not actually be buying expensive begonias until I actually know how to care for them better. Until I could actually, you know, comfortably say that it's got better than a 50% chance of life. But the begonia that I'm referring to is the Begonia Amphioxus. Oh my gosh. If you've ever seen this plant, it's beautiful, green, you've got these pointy leaves, it's really slender. If there was a plant that was supposed to be a Victoria's Secret model, it would be this plant. Well, among other plants too, but this would be one of the Victoria's Secret model plants walking out there. So the original plant was discovered in 1984. It was discovered growing on a limestone hill, and that should have been my first clue that what I was doing was wrong. So while it was discovered in 1984, it wasn't until 1990 that it actually received its official name of Amphioxus. It is aptly named, I think. The amphi part of its name refers to both sides of the leaf, and oxus actually means sharp or pointy. So both sides, sharp and pointy. And I mean, yeah, normally sharp and pointy on both sides sounds pretty threatening, but when you look at its color, it's just divine. You've got these pink and green leaves, you've got these patterns, you've got dots, textures, everything mixed in one plant, right? Just stunning. I guess that's what I would refer to when I say it would be the supermodels. It would be one of the supermodels of the plant world. Is it's slender, it's got this it factor to it, it pictures really well, just simply a gorgeous plant to have. And a pleasure to look at, really. I enjoyed it a lot while I had it. What little time I had it, at least. So the Amphioxus, oh my. The Amphioxus passed away not due to neglect, like the MIKADO Gold, but due to inexperience. I guess I would also say due to lack of know-how. I prayed for this plant because it was easily over $100 for a small little, gosh, was it a four-leaf Amphioxus? And it was just tiny. It was really tiny. In fact, it was in a little plastic cup. It was such a tiny little thing, and I spent $100 for it because I was just like, I want this. I can do this. I actually am so excited to have this plant. I want to propagate it and share it with everybody. That's what I wanted to do. And I got it, and I had it in a little terrarium. No, it wasn't a little terrarium. It was a huge terrarium. It was this big. It was maybe 1.5 feet wide and maybe 1.5 feet tall. And I tell you, big mistake. So I was trying to emulate the jungles, and while I was trying to emulate that, I didn't realize that one of the things that you should look at, aside from putting your plants in the proper pots, is that you also put it in the proper conditions. What happened to the Amphioxus is it literally melted. It melted away. So good intentions, yes, there were. Inexperience, yes. So regrets, yes, absolutely, with the Amphioxus. Given time and given some confidence, I think I probably would try to buy one again. Not at $100 because pricing has gone down a lot since then, but yeah, I would try it again because I'm a sucker for punishment. Maybe, yeah, but only when I'm sure that I could keep it alive, because it really hurt to see that thing just melt away. Nothing left. It was just horrible. Anyway, let's go on to the third plant, shall we? So the third plant on my list is the Begonia Darthvaderiana. Forgive me for what I'm about to do. I'm gonna nerd out in front of you, but I don't regret it at all. The third plant on the list, Luke, I am your father. Okay, yeah, bad rendition, fine, but you get the idea. As a Star Wars fan, this plant completely tickled my Star Wars bone. Can I even say that? Got me all sorts of giddy and excited, right? It is the Begonia Darthvaderiana. If you look at the picture, it's this beautiful black leaf begonia, kind of broad, not like the Amphioxus, and it's got this beautiful golden margin on the top of the leaf. And it's just such a beautiful, stunning little plant. This plant was named after the infamous, maybe tragic, anti-hero. Could he be considered an anti-hero? I'll let you guys debate that in the comment section down below. He is named after the Star Wars character Darth Vader. It was discovered in 2013 or 2014, I believe. Like the Amphioxus, it grows on cliffsides, but like I mentioned earlier, it grows under the shade of a rainforest. A fun thing to know about this plant is that despite its dark leaves, it's because of these dark leaves that it's able to survive in the rainforest with very little light. At the time I bought it, it was a pretty hard plant to find, and the novelty of it all, I mean, the flowers of this plant are supposedly red, just like Darth Vader's lightsaber. Totally appealed to the Star Wars fangirl in me. Really did. And at the price tag that I bought it at, the Star Wars fangirl in me just closed her eyes and said, mine. What happened to the Begonia Darthvaderiana is quite similar to what happened to the Amphioxus. It was fine in darker conditions, just because of its environment being in the rainforest and all. But what it was not okay with was the incessant water that was coming through because of the humidifier and the lack of a fan. And let me tell you, when I got it, at first it was pristine. And then the leaves slowly started melting back one by one until it was just completely gone. And it was just in moss, okay? It was just in moss. And I guess you can overwater moss if you're like me. So my best advice for someone who's looking into a Darthvaderiana is to, one, find someone who knows their begonias, especially Darthvaderianas, and two, water minimally. Don't water too much, and don't try to bathe it with your love, literally. So plant number 4 on my list is a plant that so many of us here in the Philippines love to hate. And when I say love-hate, we love to buy it and we hate to see it die. And then we love to buy it some more. It's just crazy. What did they say? The saying is, the definition of insanity is doing something again and again and expecting different results. Something like that, yeah. That is how a lot of us Filipinos feel about the Philodendron Verrucosum. And my personal story with the Verrucosum, I've had three. And I would still consider buying another. So the Verrucosum is a plant that is a species plant, but it also has a wide range of cultivars. I mean, different leaf shapes, different veins on the front, different colors, ranges of colors on the back side of the leaf. And that's probably something that it's pretty well known for, are those colorful backsides. They have fuzzier petioles. Just gorgeous, gorgeous plants. My first one was actually purchased before the pandemic. So this was purchased in 2019, I believe. Short, scraggly thing, right? 4 leaves, maybe that big leaves. Fine. I went on vacation a week, and when I came back, this thing was just gasping, dying. It had stem rot. And the person I had left it to, a very nice lady, but she's the angel of death when it comes to plants. She overwaters cacti and succulents, and she underwaters aroids, and they just don't do well under her care. But I was able to actually bring that plant back to life and save a little node from it. And that little node grew in my greenhouse until one day someone wanted to buy one. And at that time, I had a big, huge specimen. So I went ahead and sold it. It chipped away at some of the expenses that I paid towards the big plant. So what I say about you guys not spending your rent money when I show you nice plants, I really mean that, okay? Spend only what you can. And if you have other plants to sell to alleviate some of what you spent, why not, right? And that's exactly what I did here with the Verrucosum. Now, so nice little plant gone, right? And the big plant, let me tell you, gorgeous thing. I think the leaves were bigger than my hands, and it was a mother plant, meaning, you know, it was just huge. It was something that was already trailing up a pole, and then everything else happened. So mealybugs happened. Took care of those guys. Took care of those guys with a cotton swab and some alcohol, and went to work on each and every single one I could find, and did that every day for like a week. I'll tell you a little tip. Velvet leaves don't do well with any kind of chemical on their leaves. Like this guy right here. Can you see him? Yeah, you can. So this SP Columbia right here, he's got these nice leathery leaves. He'll do fine. But, oh, he's not here anymore. There he is. So my Glorious that used to be behind me, I was treating the Monstera deliciosa right here for some scale, and sprayed him with a mixture of neem oil and dishwashing liquid. I accidentally sprayed the Gloriosum with the same mixture, and when I realized my mistake, I quickly tried to wash it off, and it didn't wash off well, and the leaves burnt. You know, I mean, it looks great now. In fact, I see 4 big leaves over there, and then it also has another growth point somewhere else. So it's got other leaves growing out of the side. So it's happy. I might move it to the back for you guys to enjoy again in the future, but for now it's happy. The moral of the story is be careful what you touch your velvet leaves with. So the alcohol on these mealybugs left little spots. Fine, I could live with little blemishes, right? I could do that. Went back into my potting shed. It was with my other plants. Everybody's happy. And then I noticed spider mites. Or I don't notice spider mites because they're tiny. You don't see them. You might see some things moving. You barely see them moving. But the telltale signs for spider mites is the damage that they leave behind on the leaves. These little pinpoint dots, right? Oh man. And sure enough, you know, you could see those little guys. You could see really, you can't see them very well, but you could see movement. Spider mite treatment. Normally, I would deal with spider mites the same way I would deal with scale. That didn't work out too great. That did not work out too great. And I did not purposely spray my Glorious with neem oil, but I did purposely spray my Verrucosum with neem oil. So if you read my bio, I do refer to this vlog as a series of my plant adventures and misadventures. And this episode is a complete misadventure in itself, right? It burned those leaves. It burned the bottom leaves. It survived. It grew out well. It grew out wonderfully. And then new leaves came out, and I was like, okay, we've made it. We have gone past all of this. My Verrucosum is alive. Verrucosums are not meant to be, especially here in the Philippines. So come summer, and it was such a brutal summer. I lost a lot of calatheas. Fine. Calatheas are a whole different story. I don't even want to talk about them. But this guy could not handle the heat. It was just bad. The leaves would crumple up, get really thirsty, and get really crunchy. I tried to propagate it at the last second. Those propagations didn't go through either. I mean, I succeeded with my very first Verrucosum propagation, but that was in October of 2019 when I went on vacation, and the weather was cooler like it is now. But propagating in the summer, I just cooked those stems. They weren't in direct sunlight or anything, but it was just brutal. So the Verrucosum did not have a good end. And for many plantitos and plantitas, so the plant aunties and uncles, as we call them here in the Philippines, a lot of plantitos and plantitas actually experience the same problems with Verrucosum as far as the chicharron is concerned. My Verrucosum just had a lot of drama in its life because it was huge and beautiful and everybody clearly wanted a piece of it. So my recommendations for Verrucosum in the future is to, one, I guess, be careful with what you spray on the leaves so you don't damage them. Velvet leaves are a little bit more delicate compared to leathery leaves. And two, figure out what to do with your Verrucosum if you live in a place with high temperatures. Perhaps bring them indoors if you can for the duration of the summer. Of course, you would have to figure out lighting considerations at that point, but lighting versus losing a beloved Verrucosum, especially one that was huge. Lighting is a small problem to worry about compared to losing a plant of that size. That's my Verrucosum story. There are about over 30 varieties, I think, of Verrucosums available. And the Amazon Sunset, that one definitely caught my eye. And that one I might consider revisiting someday if I could provide it with the environment that it needs, to be honest. The fifth plant on my list is the Aglaonema Pictum Tricolor. Oh my gosh, I love that plant. I love looking at all of those patterns, and there were varying patterns. There still are, right? Such a dreamy plant. I was so excited to find one. I'd been looking for at least 3 or 4 years for Aglaonema Pictum Tricolor. APT, okay? Call it that. So, for full transparency here, I had three Aglaonema Pictum Tricolors. So the Aglaonema Pictum Tricolor is one of the more popular types of Aglaonemas that are out there. I am not an Aglaonema person. In fact, I maybe have a handful in my collection altogether. The others that I do mention that I have in my collection are out and at the mercy of Mother Nature, and they're doing great. They're doing fine. The one that I'm actually watching over, the Aglaonema Pictum Tricolor, this one is dead to me. So my first Aglaonema Pictum Tricolor, it was growing beautifully, wonderfully. Bought it from a friend and someone I completely trust. I don't know what happened, but one day it had a wound or something scraped the stem. And I'm like, okay, scraped stem. Don't know how this happened. Perhaps a rat, perhaps birds. We do have a lot of birds on the property. Could happen, right? It's fine. It's standing up. It's still beautiful. All is well. No, all was not well. What happened to the Aglaonema Pictum Tricolor was that it started showing signs of stem rot. And stem rot, my friends, is when the stem of your plant starts getting mushy. If you've ever seen root rot, you know where your roots turn brown and they get mushy, and if you pull off the sheath, it gets really stringy and you actually see a string inside. That is the root equivalent of stem rot. And with stem rot, this plant just fell over. I mean, literally, it won't even break because it's just floppy. You know, the stem is mushy and jelly-like in the sides. I tried to save this one. In fact, I contacted my friend Yukino. I'm like, Yukino, help me. I don't know what I'm doing. And he had some great advice. In fact, Yukino turned me on to HB 101. First time I ever tried it was because of him. He's like, you need to get yourself some HB 101, get some moss. Make sure that you treat that moss with water that's mixed with HB 101. Make sure that it doesn't hold too much water. It's just moist enough. So squeeze that HB 101 water out. Did all that, right? fine. I also went ahead and cut off the rotting parts of the APT, and I went ahead and put rooting hormone on the bottom. It didn't stop the rot from coming. It did not. And the rot continued until I lost my first APT. I had previously asked a friend of mine to buy me a APT in Bangkok when she went with her husband in, gosh, I believe it was 2019. And of course, everything got shut down due to the pandemic. So when she finally contacted me and said, hey, I could send plants over. Do you want your plants? I said, yes. And she sent over this beautiful APT, and I was so thrilled. It was a gorgeous plant. I can't remember if the plant that I pictured as the intro for this portion is the first or second plant, but it was just a really nice looking plant. It had a gorgeous pattern and everything, and I was thrilled and also sad that I was dealing with root rot with this thing, but I knew what to do. Yukina already advised me. Oh yeah, so it's the second plant. I'll show you a picture of both of them together. So the first plant was a stem. Remember how I told you it had stem rot, so it's completely bald, no more leaves. And then I had my second one, and I have a picture of those guys together, and I'll post it right now. But so the second one was doing great. It was doing fine. Oh wow, pretty bird. Sorry. So the second one was doing great, right? It was doing fine, and then I guess I overwatered it too much, or it just couldn't root rot, wouldn't stop, and it eventually turned into the same thing that happened to the first APT. I don't know what it is that would cause the Aglaonemas to react that kind of way with the care that I give. Like I said, I'm not an Aglaonema person. I don't have many in my collection to begin with. But yeah, that's what happened to the second one. And then the third one. So the first one was purchased at pandemic pricing. That's all I'll say about that. The second one was purchased prior to the pandemic, so you know, it was still at very nice pricing, and from Bangkok on top of that, so really cheap. Happy about that. The third one, not as cheap as the second plant, but much cheaper than the first plant. And I feel like I need to show this to you just so that you can get why I'm saying this plant is dead to me. I don't know what to do. I'll be right back. This is my Aglaonema Pictum Tricolor, what's left of it at least. We've got one growth point over here, we've got another one right here, and we have this guy. I don't know what he's doing with his life. I still see some green on the stem, which is great, but other than that, I mean, I don't know what I'm doing. And then look at it. It's no longer a Pictum Tricolor. Now it's just a Pictum Bicolor. I don't know what this wants. I don't. So for this guy, I have it in a mix of wood chips, some pumice. What else do I have in here? What the heck? You know what? We're already looking at roots, so why not just pull it all out, right? So look at this guy, right? He's got these beautiful, gorgeous white roots. What gives? The soil mixture has a little bit of vermicast in it as well for water retention. The pot has drainage holes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in it. I don't know. I don't understand Aglaonemas. I don't even know who this plant is anymore. So this is my third Aglaonema Pictum Tricolor, and I don't know what I'm doing with it. I'm hoping that it won't die. So if you guys have some recommendations and suggestions for me on how to care for this guy or Aglaonemas in general, please share them in the comment section down below. My Aglaonemas will thank you. So the sixth plant on my list is the variegated Philodendron green Congo. So at the height of the pandemic, remember how I told you plant pricing had gone wild? It was just nuts here during the pandemic. So at the height of this pandemic, someone sold a gorgeous variegated Philodendron green Congo specimen. Just gorgeous. And they sold it for 500,000 pesos. So at the time that plant was sold, the peso was roughly 50 to $1. And at that time, that would mean that that variegated Philodendron green Congo sold for roughly 10,000 US dollars. You could buy a car with that thing. But see, at 500,000, that wasn't a bad price for a plant. It was obscene, but it wasn't the worst I've seen. I think one of the highest priced plants I've seen sold was about 3 million pesos. 3 million pesos. I won't do the math for you. I'll put it at the bottom of the screen when I do my editing. But yeah, that's how much plants, especially premium plants, were selling for. It's just really, really bad. And well, if you've seen a green Congo, this is just the variegated version of it. The green Congo grows in a rosette pattern. It will just keep growing upright. It's beautiful, beautiful. And mine was beautiful too. I actually got it in a swap, so I didn't pay anything from it. You ever hear the saying that sometimes plants die because they try to protect their owners from evil? They try to ward off evil and they absorb the evil instead of letting it hit their owners? Yeah. I think this is what happened to this plant. Just kidding. No, but I don't know what happened to this plant. I mean, it started out beautiful and gorgeous, and then it kept getting whiter and whiter and whiter, and then it went albino. There we go. It went full albino. I knew that a plant with all white leaves would not be able to survive, and once it started showing that those leaves were dying before the next one could come out, I knew that I had to do something, and I cut. And that's what you normally do to variegated plants to encourage either variegation to come out or to encourage more green to come out on the opposite end. And that's what I was hoping to do. It didn't take well. It rotted away. It was not good. I mean, I don't have a particular attachment to it. I don't. It was a pretty plant, but it really is the price that gives me pause when I think about this plant. Because don't forget, earlier I did tell you that someone sold one of theirs for 500,000. I'm not saying that was a 500,000 plant, far from it. But it was a good priced plant. Really good priced plant. And yeah, it's a shame it turned out that way instead of, you know, staying green, or instead of me selling it under better conditions. Yeah, I totally would have done that too. So that's the only reason why this plant is on my list. I wouldn't change anything as far as what I did with that plant. I would probably do the same thing if I was ever confronted with a situation like that again. But dang, could have totally sold that and gotten something else that I actually enjoyed, right? Finally, for the last plant on this list, it's not completely dead yet, but this is another situation that could have been avoided. No, it couldn't have been avoided. Who am I kidding? I'm not superwoman. The last plant on my list is the Philodendron El Choco Red. And this is my Philodendron El Choco Red. This is a fairly new hazard, I guess. This is a fairly new, I don't know what it is right now, but this plant was actually quite full. It was my favorite El Choco Red. I had two. I was gonna sell the other one, and I'm lucky I didn't, because this was not good. I was watering my plants one day and I knocked it off. So in terms of things that could happen to your plants that could cause their deaths, pests, yes. Root rot, yes. Stem rot, yes. Over variegation, absolutely. Consider this one as well. Accidents. So this guy toppled over after I watered him. I must have brushed him with my elbow or something, and I was horrified. I immediately squeaked, and I saw it on the ground, and I picked it up. The plant was no longer connected to the pot. What to do in situations like that? In this case, the soil never really came out. I know I see a lot of roots here, so there's a good chance that if there are any nodes, this thing will grow back. In fact, I might be seeing growth. I'm not sure if this is growth, but I'll go ahead and include part of it for this video. Oh, gosh, it does not look the best. I tell you, it does not. And I worry, but it is what it is. We're gonna deal with this. The base part is easy because there's always roots involved, right? If the plant happens to fall out of the pot, you know, repot. You got roots, everything will be fine. you got your base part. Let's talk about what to do with the top cut. As if it was cut. It wasn't. The top smash. This is the top part. I lost 1 leaf, 2 leaves. This one is yellowing, so 3. I had 5 leaves in total. And as you can see, it's a gorgeous, gorgeous plant. Just really, really nice. Big, huge. It was my favorite El Choco Red. I immediately tried to figure out what to do with it. What I decided was to put it in Pathcal. If you haven't seen my Pathcal videos, you might want to check it out. I have a couple of them. I even have an update video which shows you the results of my initial video. Check those 2 out because so far so good. When I put this guy in, he had no roots. He had the few aerial roots that were coming out here on top, but just really, really short roots. This little leaf right here, that you see right here in the front. I don't know if you see it. Can you see it? There he is. There he is. It had not unfurled at that point that it fell. Yeah, I immediately mixed up a concoction, Pathcal with some perlite and some pumice to give it more airiness. The Pathcal will actually hold enough moisture for your plant that it needs, so you don't have to worry about overwatering it. Of course, HB 101 doesn't hurt. It's a plant vitalizer. I did lose 1 leaf here, 2 leaves here. I will be losing this 3. I might be losing a 4th, but the fact that this new leaf is unfurling right here next to my face, there it is, actually means that roots are growing out. And I see some root growth right up here and right here. So I've got faith, and you should too. So accidents do happen. If you find yourself having an accident, go ahead and panic and then calm down. That would be my tip for the final plant on this episode. Is accidents happen, go ahead and allow yourself to panic. I mean, yeah, you know, it's a prized plant, it's one of your favorite plants. You didn't mean to do it. It happened. After you allow yourself to feel that little bit of panic, it's time to go into damage control mode. See what you have in your area that could help fix it. If it's as simple as a broken leaf, you might be able to splint it. I've had some success with that. I haven't had some success with that, but you know, it happens. If you break your plant like I did, propagate it. Consider it 2 propagations. You've got, you know, a top cut and a bottom cut. Top smash and a bottom smash. So accidents do happen, but how we react to it will dictate how much success we might have in trying to bring our plants back to what they were. And I'm hoping that my quick reaction to this plant will actually help it come back. And if it does, I'll be posting update photos on Instagram for you guys. And that's it. These are the pricey plants that I've loved before and lost before, with the exception of this guy. Maybe, we'll see. Wait, remains to be seen, right? If you enjoyed this content, please give this video a like. Leave me a comment down below. I love reading them. I'm trying to respond to all of them. A little behind on that, but I do read them. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click that notification bell for future episodes. I post videos once a week, sometimes fun, sometimes entertaining. I hope both all the time. If you want more content than my once a week videos, please check me out on Facebook. I'm there as Tasteful Nodes. If you just want to look at pretty pictures or videos right before you go to bed, check me out on Instagram. I'm there as Tasteful Nodes as well. Okay guys, from me and these 2 dying plants, until next time, sa uulitin, keep your notes classy and tasteful. Bye.